Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tripping on Bricks podcast, brought to you by the AS Review, an alternative news source here at Western Washington University. My name is Abby Rains, and I'm your assistant editor of the review and your host. And so we want this outlet to be a source of various topics, such as student life, news, and campus events that we cover throughout the year. So let us know what you would like to hear, because we are by the students, for the students. And spring is in season, and so is election time. For our second episode, I'm here with the new ASVP for Governmental Affairs, as well as the ASOCE Elections Coordinator, to discuss this upcoming election season in more detail and why people should pay attention to it. So thank you both for being here to provide some more insight on all things election. So starting off, if you want to introduce yourself with your pronouns and explain your role, that would be great.
Yes, my name's Eli Stanchu, and as you said, I am the new VP for Governmental Affairs, and my role consists of representing the student body of Western to the government at each of its respective levels, state, local, federal in a way, but also on campus running government actions, and in this example, elections, voter engagement, and local lobby day efforts, and even administrative lobby day efforts. And so, yeah, that's what the role consists of.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. My name is Keara. I use she, her pronouns, and my job is essentially just running the ASWWU election. So that's essentially all of what I do. And then in the Office of Civic Engagement, I help a lot with just facilitating day-to-day tasks and
Awesome. So kind of starting off, I just want to say congratulations on your new position. How has the experience been so far, since it's only been about like a month since you've been in the position, I'm assuming, and like, what do you do within your title?
So the experience has been exciting, busy, but good. To give an example of what we did starting out, the local lobby day was being planned and is happening soon, this next week, going into May 6th is when the local lobby day will happen. And so that was right on my platter when I took the office, making sure that that could run smoothly, getting it passed through AS Executive Board. And then that leads into the next main thing of the role, is to represent what students need at the government level on our student government's executive board. Because the student government's dealing with a lot of other things, but my role is to focus in on government affairs, bring it before the board so we can vote on things and make sure that we have a clear agenda going forward.
Seems like you have like your stuff together. Like even before like running, like how was the campaigning experience and kind of running, since it was a little bit weird since it wasn't like the usual?
Yeah.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Yes. So with the vacancy that happened actually kind of right in between winter and spring quarter, going into that spring quarter, I applied. I had worked fall and winter quarter as a student government assistant in the AS, so I wasn't completely new. But this position still had a lot of new experience to be fulfilled. And going into the campaigning, it consisted of the executive board having a search committee. They were looking for candidates. People applied, and I don't know how many people applied, but they narrowed down some names and ended up making a selection, and with some voting and different activities that happened at the executive board, then President Glory appointed me as ASVP for Governmental Affairs.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So even like thinking about running, why did you choose to run for this position specifically?
I chose to run because I believe that student governance is important on campus. Because it advocates the issues and the interests of students even past the campus. And that's really important for things that like tuition cost, student aid, to even smaller things like having student services or having food at activities and events, right? And these are all good things, and the position needed to be filled. I had felt that I had had some experience in the government, and I had worked with other members of the executive board before, and I knew them, and so I thought I could work as a team with the rest of them to make sure this position going forward can help fulfill its duties. And probably the number one duty that was on my mind was elections. This position has a lot to do with elections, and there being a vacancy in spring quarter, somebody needed to be in the role so that we could run fair and free elections for the student body come the end of this quarter.
So what's an aspect specifically of this job? I know you said you were kind of on it before, but more of like, was it a student at large,
Student
or?
government assistant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how being in this position now, how is it different than maybe anything else you've had like done in the past with that job, or just any job
I think
previously?
one major difference is working with a wide variety of student groups, and getting perspectives from a huge pool. And working to make that into a singular plan can be difficult, but it is also a rewarding experience because you're seeing how student voices as a whole are coming together and being condensed into a plan that can be put forward. An example being like our local lobby day agenda that we're presenting to the city of Bellingham and Whatcom County come May 6th, because it has to be condensed down. We can't obviously capture every single voice, though I wish we could. Maybe we could work on a new plan for that. But until then, I still think that the system we have set up does a really good job of getting the main points of what students care about and presenting it forward. And that's something that was new in my job, is trying to compile those things together and present it.
I think that was one of the most interesting things, even thinking about researching about election season as I was doing, more investigative stuff with that. There is a difference between like the Senate and also the exec board, and it's like a wide variety, and I had no idea what it was up until like this past year. So Keara, if you could tell us the difference between the Senate and also the exec board, and how what each of their importance is.
Yeah. So the Senate is a group of students. There are 2 elected from every college and then 4 at large. Anybody can run for at large regardless of their major. They deal a lot with academics, such as meeting with the deans of every college. So it's kind of more of an academic standpoint. And then the executive board is a smaller group of students. They meet weekly and they fulfill a wide variety of tasks. Like Eli is the governmental affairs, the vice president of governmental affairs. There's other people who are the VP for activities, student services, and so they kind of cover a wide variety of things, each in their own like niche subset of things.
So what types of students would want to run for like these different positions? I know you kind of talked about why you ran specifically for the governmental affairs, but which students would want to run for these positions?
Yeah, so it kind of depends. Student Senate has about 7 to 10 hours of work about a month, compared to executive board members that are reaching essentially 19 hours a week, which is a lot. So it kind of depends how ready you are to be involved in student government. I really recommend people starting out with Student Senate to kind of dip their toes in the water and kind of understand about how it functions and kind of get connected with everybody in the student government. But if you're a highly motivated student and you're really interested and you're super passionate about a specific position, I would definitely recommend running for the executive board. I know lots of students that are super passionate about sustainability and the environment often run for the VP of sustainability without any prior experience in the Western government, student government. So,
sorry.
If I may interject, I think something to be noted that's important is a lot of people hear government and they're like, oh, well, I'm not a political science major, or maybe a history, but there are students who, like you were kind of bringing up, who are environmental studies majors or undecided. It doesn't mean you just have to have political interest to run for Senate or exec board, because there's, like you said, niche parts where we need people who actually have experience in other parts, not just government, so that we can know what we want to advocate for. We, like me in the government affairs position, it's really good to advocate, but sometimes it's nice to know what the students want to advocate for, and from people who are actually out there studying the things that are important, like the environment, like sociology is another main one. And so there's just a wide variety. So I would want to put out a note of, it's not exclusionary to like political science interest students.
Yeah, if you could, I was wondering, you were talking about like lobby day and then other things that you do outside of campus, if you wanted to talk a little about that, or specifically about lobby days, since it is coming up like in the next couple of weeks.
Yes. So one example that I'll give first, and then moving on to Lobby Day, is Western is part of the Washington Student Association. And that is an association of several public universities that are here in the state. So like UW, WSU, us, Central, etc. There's more. And it's an association where all those students come together and we can collectively campaign for general student at large efforts at the state level in the legislature. So an example being that one of their major accomplishments was the Washington College Grant that many students receive. It helps them go to college affordably and not have to rack up huge amounts of debts or maybe even have to leave college. That is one of their main accomplishments that they claim that they accomplished by coming together as students and working with state representatives to get that passed. Or another one was like religious tolerance and observance, like having the month of Ramadan actually be recognized as a holiday that you could take if you were practicing that religion. And so there's accomplishments that only can be made when we all come together. And so me as the VP for Government Affairs, along with several other positions in the OCE, work in the WSA to represent Western students, but also just college students in general in the state.
Yeah, I feel like that already answers the question that I'm going to ask. But like, if students are on the fence about running or filing for these, just I guess the plethora of positions that are offered, what would you say? I guess both of you, like if you had any insight for that.
I'd say if you're on the fence, I think that it's a very valuable opportunity because you learn a lot. And because you learn a lot, it doesn't mean you need to know everything already. Don't expect that you need to know exactly how to run a student government before, because I don't think there have been any students who originally started already with previous experience of, I already ran a college student government. You usually don't do that. So no one else before you has had this experience before, and I think it's okay if you come in wanting to learn, not expecting to know everything already. And so I would just jump into it. I jumped into it, so maybe it's personal experience, but I would suggest just jumping into it.
That's great advice. I feel like that's really important, especially for people like they get scared with like having those positions, but it's like you learn as you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. People that are on the fence, I would kind of say, one, it's a paid position. Students actually make $17.70 an hour to be a student representative on campus, which is a lot more than a job you can get anywhere else. It is a nice flexible job that kind of works around your school schedule and stuff that you have going outside of work. You're never asked to work on the weekends or do anything that doesn't work with your school schedule. And then also, it's just kind of I know that this isn't the best way to say it and the best reason for somebody to get involved, but it kind of is a great resume builder. It kind of prepares you for so many other things later in life. Job applicants, or you stand out a lot more as a future job applicant with something like student government on your resume, showing that you were an active and involved student on your college campus.
So since election season is going to be coming up in the next coming weeks, for those who might want to participate or even just like think about who they want to vote for and stuff, what kind of important deadlines are coming up, and also, where can we find you to find this information?
Yeah, definitely. So the deadline to file to be a candidate for the Student Senate or the Executive Board has actually been pushed back to the 15th of May. So that adds almost an additional 10 days to file for candidacy. Other than that, voting starts on May 23rd to May 27th. The campaign period opens up on May 17th at 9 a.m., which is pretty exciting. So that's when candidates can post material physically on campus or on social media. But those are the big deadlines to be aware of what's happening over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, awesome. So the main takeaway is file for candidacy if you have not yet, and stay tuned for the elections and make sure to vote. I just want to say thank you both for being here. Follow ASWWU_OCE on Instagram to stay updated with the latest info about the election. And to wrap this up, I wanted to thank the Digital Media Center for providing us this space to film and record. Our podcast will be on YouTube, Spotify, and also our website, so check us out at asreview.org and our social media at asreview on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you for listening to the second episode of this season's Tripping on Bricks. I'm your host, Abby, with the AS Review, signing off.